What could be more simple than a contest where people vote for the best song? Well, if you think so, you've never watched Eurovision. It's on this weekend in Ukraine, and for the first time, one country has banned another. And they say the only good lionfish is a dead lionfish. Beautiful, but wreaking havoc in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm Dana Lewis. This is Insight. Welcome to Insight. The 62nd Eurovision Song Contest is due to be held in Kiev, Ukraine this weekend. 204 million people across 42 countries tuned in to watch last year's final. And there's nil points, as they say. That's no points for guessing that this year's will be packed full of the usual over-the-top outfits, catchy melodies, and some tactical voting. Insight's Sarah Firth reports on what's become one of the most politicized song contests ever.
It's supposed to be a festival of peace and unity to celebrate diversity. But this year's Eurovision Song Contest has hit the wrong note. Host country Ukraine banned Russia's entry, Yulia Samoleva, because she performed in Crimea in 2015 after it was annexed by Russia. The Ukrainian president has defended that decision.
Russia didn't want to participate in Eurovision, but wanted a provocation. I'm pleased that thanks to the actions of the Ukrainian government, this provocation will not be realized.
That's not gone down well in Russia.
This Eurovision is not a song contest. This is a contest of politicians. We do not like competition like that.
Eurovision's organisers, the European Broadcasting Union, tried to smooth things over by offering Russia a plan B for Yulia to take part via a satellite link. But Russia refused. Look, Russia knew that their entrant had visited Crimea, and they knew that was going to be a huge problem for Ukraine. So this looks like a deliberate provocation.
Well, knowing that it's Russia, I suspect it was a mix-up. Somebody didn't say something to someone. But of course, on the face of it, it does look like it's a provocation, because they obviously had to know that the singer, this Julia, she had visited Crimea and even performed there. So there is a bit of both here, I suspect.
The Eurovision tension is playing out against the backdrop of a 3-year war in eastern Ukraine between government forces and separatist rebels who are being armed by Russia. That war has so far left 10,000 people dead. Perhaps little wonder then that the Eurovision contest is being overshadowed.
It's not something we can avoid in the end, that there are political tension between countries. I think we have managed very well over the 60 years of Eurovision Song Contest in different periods in Europe and in different territories to keep Eurovision Song Contests free from politics.
Despite all the sequins and feathers, spotlights and smiles, behind the scenes at Eurovision, and things can get quite heated. It's often said that the UK is one of the best music producers in the world, but it hasn't won Eurovision for 20 years. Now it's a long-running joke for Brits who say that's because people in other countries are tactically voting for their neighbours rather than for the best song. The point is, this isn't the first year that Eurovision's been accused of being political, and it's unlikely to be the last. The Eurovision final will take place this weekend.
So just watch the show and have the best time. It's going to be spectacular.
Russia won't be represented here.
Will be crowned the winner.
But Yulia's been back on stage performing, once again in Crimea. It's the latest manoeuvre in the battle between Moscow and Kiev that right now is playing out on the Eurovision stage. Sarah Firth reporting for Insight.
All right, to discuss all things Eurovision, I'm joined by Liam Jarnecki, a writer and huge fan of all things Eurovision.
Hi, Dana.
You're more than a fan. You told me you're obsessed.
I think that's probably the best word for it. Yes, it's a thing I've loved all of my life, and any piece of news that comes out about Eurovision, I find myself straight on. It's like a magnet for me.
It stirs a lot of emotion. I mean, even in the newsroom this morning, I was listening to some of the young ladies in the corner discussing Eurovision. I hate Eurovision. I love Eurovision. I'm throwing a Eurovision party. I mean, it's a big topic of conversation.
It's a huge thing that has an effect of uniting people, even sometimes in disunity. It's the only progress, the only time in the year that the entire continent, from Portugal to Belarus or Iceland to Israel, can get together and participate in the same program and watch the same thing. So in a way, it's sort of like a village party or show. It's important in that respect.
United in disunity. I mean, let's talk about Russia. I mean, this is the first time that a country has been banned. Russia has been banned from the contest this year by Ukraine. Was that the right thing to do?
Well, the Ukrainians would say we haven't banned Russia. We have banned this particular contestant because she has been in breach of our law in that she went to Crimea to perform. That's what the Ukrainians would say. Other people would say, well, you know, just why can't you relax your laws a little bit? It's very unlikely the Russians did not know that exactly this turn of events would happen when they selected that particular participant.
That's what President Poroshenko of Ukraine said. He said, look, the Russians knew and they were trying to provoke this. To what advantage?
Well, it's a little awkward if you're at war with each other, as these countries are, to then be on stage on a Saturday night primetime broadcast with the potential of booing from the audience and your artists are holding hands on stage. Personally, I think it's probably better to be singing songs at each other than trying to kill each other on a battlefield, but that's not an opinion that's necessarily shared. So I think that's...
Didn't Ukraine's entry last year do the same thing? I mean, it was a song about the Crimea and Stalin's deportation of thousands.
Arguably, there's a lot of people saying that song shouldn't have been allowed, but it's tricky for the EBU because the different nations play games with the songs. I'm not sure that 1944 was a political song, really. It certainly referenced back to some situations with the Tatars in Ukraine, but people could project onto it an interpretation about politics at the moment, and that's really what Eurovision is. It's a big blank canvas, and people can project their politics onto it in terms of either their own behaviour or their perceptions of how other people are behaving.
I mean, reading in on Eurovision, I'm struck by how many different examples there are, though, of politics. Revelations in 2008 on a documentary that Spain's General Franco fixed the contest and stole Britain and Cliff Richard of his win. 1974, the Portuguese used their song as a coded message to start a military coup.
That's correct.
Incredible history.
Yeah, there is. If you think about it, it has existed since 1956 in the origins of the Cold War, and it was designed to bring people together, and it has reflected the continent that it represents. And you can look at it year on year as a sort of continuous observation and see the development of our continent. And even when Ireland were winning in the 1990s, there was a perception that was a political message to the United Kingdom to sort out its Irish policy. So it's continued all the way through. And whether any of this is true, whether it's slightly true, it's easy to sort of say, oh, here's the theory, and then project it onto the contest.
I guess the trouble that people have with it, though, is that there is a recognition by many that it's a stacked deck, that people vote by patterns, and therefore countries like Britain haven't won in the last 20 years.
Well, there are perceptions of voting blocks, but this Saturday night will be quite interesting because it's really a two-horse race between Italy and Portugal, and the Portuguese are not associated with any voting bloc. They're not singing in English. It's a very unusual song. It's not even in 4/4. It's not even a traditional pop song. So we're going to find out a lot this weekend about just how open Europe is to cultures beyond their own doorstep.
And I know you're going to be glued the whole way. Who owns Eurovision? Does it make money? Is it expanding or is it contracting to some degree?
I think it certainly has expanded massively. It's doubled in size to where we were even 25 years ago. It's organised by the European Broadcasting Union, which is a federation of broadcasters.
Right, and some of those broadcasters are government-owned. owned. Some of those broadcasters have private enterprise.
Exactly right, yes. The only criteria is they have to be a national broadcaster with a news service, and they club together to pay for satellite technology and other things that it would be not sensible for a broadcaster to try and do on its own.
When we talk about Eurovision would like to expand into North America vision, into Asia vision. Is that one of the reasons Australia is in there?
That's absolutely right. The Australians are going to be in for their third year, and a lot of people are wondering why, and it's really about opening up new markets. Part of it is Australia's cultural affinity with the homelands of many of its residents. But it's really about opening up the Eurovision concept into an Asia vision and a world vision. So I think there's some people optimistically in the EBU hoping that money can be made from the format sometime down the line.
Now, I know when you say you're obsessed, you're one of the few people that are so religious in their view of Eurovision, in the sense that you're never going to miss it, but you won't throw a Eurovision party, and you told me earlier why?
Yes, I don't really want people talking through the songs. That's, yeah, how can you hear it and enjoy it? But many people will have a Eurovision party. There'll be thousands of Eurovision parties across Europe, and it's a great way of getting together. And for people who are slightly less obsessed than me, probably with a more healthy view of Eurovision, they can just enjoy the music and enjoy the company of their friends.
Who's going to win?
It'll be Italy or Portugal, and really the political battle will be between a love poem put to music by the Portuguese or a big party song from Italy, and that's what people will be arguing about long into the night on Saturday.
Liam, have fun Saturday night. Great talking to you.
You too. Thanks, Dana.
This is Insight. Coming up, the pretty fish with a voracious appetite eating everything in the Atlantic.